What's going on, guys? This is Frank Chen with REIClub.com, your link to creative real estate, and thanks for joining us today. This is our podcast, and we're going to be covering an awesome topic that I've always been curious about, and it's kind of started gaining a lot more momentum over the past few months, in the past year or so, which is crowdfunding. And this handsome gentleman that you see right in front of you here is named Sterling White, and his business partner, which you can't see, we're going to put a picture up after this call, is going to be Jacob. I hope I'm saying it right, Blackett, is that right?
Yes, Blackett, and not as good looking as Sterling. So.
Oh, come on,
that's
come
probably
on.
Yeah, so I guess Jacob's joining us by phone today, which we can't get him on video, but the picture will be just as good. And these guys are the founders of a company called Holdfolio.com. They're a crowdfunding type platform for real estate investors who invest your money and get some really great returns. And we're going to cover a lot of the common questions and the hard questions you guys may have about crowdfunding. And hopefully by the end of this call, you guys feel a little bit more confident about the process and will feel a little bit more educated. So with that being said, are you guys ready to get started?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Welcome to the world's most interesting podcast.
Yes. Thank you guys for joining us. So first things first, for those who have, maybe not heard of or heard you guys on a podcast before or know where y'all are, tell us a little bit more about yourself. And we'll start with you, Sterling, and we'll jump over to you, Jacob, your background and kind of how you guys fell into crowdfunding and of all things.
Yeah. So at an early age, I was always into entrepreneurship. In the early middle school days, between class sessions, I was selling Pokemon cards, CDs, whatever I could get my hands on. Yeah. Kind of fast forwarding that to the college is when I first got involved in real estate, getting my hands dirty in the construction side of things. And, I had met a mentor who was the developer for commercial projects and partnered with him on a few single-family homes and the development of apartments. And then that's when I met my partner, now Jacob, and then that's when we got into the single-family home space, and we were looking for different options to better serve individuals. We saw the new crowdfunding legislation opening up, and we just jumped in head first. Good summary.
Yeah, and so my whole real estate career began during my sophomore year of college. Late one night, I was just, surfing the channels, and there was an infomercial, how to make millions in real estate. And it was interesting to me because I was studying finance, and there was really no course offerings about real estate. And so that infomercial kind of piqued my interest. They had a free seminar that led to lots of education and eventually getting a couple fix and flips done my sophomore year of college. And so I ended up, long story short, a few hundred properties later, this crowdfunding, like Sterling said, it was starting to enter the space and starting to kind of enter, mainstream headlines.
Right.
And so we saw an opportunity where we could offer a very unique option for people to invest with us through this crowdfunding model. And like Sterling said, we jumped right in, and it was a long startup phase, but we are definitely seeing the benefits, being able to get a lot of people involved right now.
The ball is rolling.
And I love it. And if you guys don't mind me asking, how old are you guys?
25.
Sterling, you're 25.
25 and back in three-fourths.
Young man. And then
yeah, I remember back when I was Sterling's age, and so I'm currently 26.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'm 31. So you guys look substantially younger than me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm probably not eating my vitamins or something. But you guys are living comfortably. I can tell. I like it. So let me ask you guys this. You guys briefly talked about this crowdfunding legislation. So for you guys who don't know out there before, being able to source together a lot of funds from multiple people for one deal legally, that there was a lot of red tape there. And this legislation kind of opened that up for everybody but there are a lot of, what would you call it, regulations in place and rules, and have those since loosened up, or can you guys kind of dive into what that legislation did for you guys and kind of how it's grown since then?
So I think for us, what that legislation did was really put it into the headlines and get the idea out there. People have essentially been crowdfunding for a very long time, pooling assets together. Mostly, only the most wealthy class of us here in the States participate in this type of private equity where you're buying shares into something, contributing money towards a project, and it's been under the radar. So what that legislation did is really make it more of a mainstream idea where they're trying to involve a bigger population of people. And for us, we spent weeks and weeks reading into different articles, the different legislations. Every single regulation has 1,000 different points that you need to pay attention to. You need to be aware if you want to use any of this regulation. What that led us to do, really, because I'm not a lawyer, Sterling's not a lawyer, this is not our forte. What it led us to burning through about 6 attorneys until we finally found the right attorney that we currently work with, and that's who we've been able to run our ideas through, and through trial and error have found our current model that we work on, and that was only about an 18-month process. So
only an 18-month process.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a very diligent and hard-working process for you guys.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most common questions that people usually have about crowdfunding is, how much money do I really need to participate is really the biggest question. And I think, in the beginning, there are a lot higher minimums, correct?
Correct.
And now, so can you kind of give us an idea, if I'm a newbie investor coming in, I don't have the $10,000 or maybe $20,000 for a down payment on a home. Will this work for me?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of crowdfunding platforms out there that will offer different types of minimum investments. With our company, it tends to be right around $10,000.
Okay.
From our standpoint, we think that's a healthy. One part of this is not just accepting money from anyone that can jump on a computer and register and say, oh, I want to invest in real estate.
Right.
There's a diligence process, and so we talk to every single investor with a phone call, get to know them, and give them opportunity to get to know us, make sure that people are in the right position. If you have $11,500 in your savings account, you probably shouldn't be throwing $10,000 into a private placement, a crowdfunding effort. So we just, through that process, make sure the right people are getting on board and are in the right position for all parties' interests.
So piggybacking on something is, where is crowdfunding like a fund where I could put money in? Is there a penalty to pull my money out, or is there a time frame of which I have to keep that money in before I can pull it out? How does all that work?
And that really varies upon which platform or which fund or investment vehicle you invest in. Some people may have the crowdfunding in more of the debt, to where it's more of a shorter term, versus with us, we have more of an equity type of position, to where it's more of a long-term play, like 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years.
And you guys are dealing mostly with single family, commercial, or all of the above?
Single family at this point, and that's just due to our previous experience of before starting the company, we were buying and selling hundreds of turnkey single family homes.
Right.
So we just took that and that model in that niche and just adapted that into the current what we're doing.
And going back to one point of your question, if someone gets into this investment, they now own shares of, say, a portfolio of single family homes.
Okay.
A couple of years goes by, something happens, life happens. They need to sell their ownership to recoup their capital because they need cash. Each platform may write in different provisions, but with our company, we try to make this an easy option. There's no fees involved. It's a simple matchmaking process. Our company actually holds a first right of refusal to purchase that ownership. Mm-hmm. From our standpoint, we think it's a great opportunity to reinvest in our portfolios. And
Absolutely.
outside of that, we have a huge network of people who are interested in investing with us, and so we really see the ability to create liquidity for individuals if that is needed.
That's great, and it's interesting that the concept of crowdfunding now is, what I try to wrap my mind around is it a feasible option for me? Like, why can't I just put this money into a home, or how do I just get 2 or 3 people and buy a smaller home and get better returns? What would you say one of the biggest turn-ons, or people should really kind of focus on when it comes, like, what position, or how would you, here's the question: what kind of investor would you identify that crowdfunding will work perfectly for?
Yeah, usually it's someone who is either a previous landlord and has purchased a investment property and it turned out to be more hands-on than they originally had anticipated. And can you guys hear me correctly?
I can, yes. You're saying
Okay,
loud and clear. Yeah.
okay. And they're looking for an alternative investment to be more hands-off. So that's usually the typical investor that we get. Those are one of the things. So someone who's wants to be more hands-off and more of a passive investment.
So passive income, so I put my money in. Most of these people are thinking, so, in case of default, are there any type of scenarios where I eventually will have to do some type of decision-making or management, or will I always be a silent investor? How does that work?
So those who invest with us, we're creating a partnership where we are the experienced investors. We've been there, done this. It's our job to make these portfolios perform. So one part of this investment is that we have control. And so what that does is, like Sterling mentioned, it creates a very passive option for the investor. And with that passive option, you don't have decisions to make. You don't have to approve anything. You really are as passive as you want. We send, of course, regular updates and through the model, but exactly addressing your question, there's no decisions, no management, unless it was something pertaining to, you want to sell your ownership, or you had some questions about the direction of the investment. Then we have very, very clear means of communication. So
I'm looking at crowdfunding almost like a pie, right? I'm buying a certain section of the pie. If I wanted a larger portion of the pie, does that mean I get more control, or just my returns are higher? How does that balance out, if I want to become more of a majority owner per se?
We get this question. We get individuals who say, well, how about I just fund an entire portfolio and then I get X amount of control? Through our model currently, we don't offer any type of option. Everyone who invests with us are in the same boat. There's really no larger say that you get by investing more in a portfolio. So, we keep the playing field very even amongst all the investors.
Now, is that something that most crowdfunding companies do, or is that kind of like a one-off situation when people, I guess, want more share?
Yeah, across the board, when it comes to these crowdfunding opportunities, what an investor will be doing is giving up control. So they have to place their confidence and trust in the operator behind that project, and with that, when they invest, their projected returns. Outside of that, there's no really control aspect. There are some provisions that you'll see. For example, worst case provisions, where if the manager is doing something, not acting in the best interest of everyone, or has people will ask, well, what happens if you just disappear? Then in those circumstances, then the members, the investors, together can elect a new manager. And so that's one provision that we offer. So if we're not acting in the best interest of everyone, if something's gone awry with management with our company, then we give the investors control to kind of step in that kind of worst case scenario.
And that's very rare. That's very rare, right?
We can't necessarily come up with a very legitimate scenario where that would happen, but
right.
You get the question, and you can never say never, I guess.
That's to be the air to the side of caution. Air to the side of caution. So one thing I always like to talk to our members about, and you mentioned briefly about earlier as well, is due diligence, right? There's tons of these crowdfunding sites out there, and they're relatively offering similar services. So what would you recommend to our listeners today on due diligence? What specifically would you say? Maybe top three, if that's enough. Top three things they should really be looking out for when it comes to picking a platform like this.
Yeah, so I'd say off the top of my head, one is just doing the due diligence on the operator. What's their track record? Second is, does that platform or operator have equity or some type of skin in the game to, in the event that the investors are, let's say, not doing, you want that operator to be incentivized to make whatever the investment perform. And Jacob, what would you say is a good third one? As far as looking into?
I'd say definitely do the due diligence on the operator, make sure they have skin in the game. You want to make sure that the platform and the operator both have something to lose. So they're both incentivized to be doing the best due diligence and bringing the best deals to the market.
And with that being said, what would you say is considered skin in the game? These are their deals. This is money they're putting in with you, in the sense. I'm assuming they're not. I guess selling third-party properties, right? These are part of their portfolio, and they're just. Oh yeah. Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I'd say if they have equity, so if they're doing a total raise of, let's say, $400,000, and they keep $100,000 in the deal, and then of course they raise the remainder of it. So,
okay.
So one of those situations to where they actually have money in the deal, or they essentially still keep equity somehow, if that's through some carried interest or something to keep them incentivized to make those properties perform.
And getting prior performance of the operator's projects and the platform's projects. So you want to see, on a conservative basis, you want to see track record. You want to see successful projects. You want to see dividends being paid and referrals. Don't be shy just because this is an online platform. Don't be shy to engage with people. Expect to talk with people. Expect to talk with referrals. Get in touch with other investors that have successfully had projects and have money with that platform.
Or unsuccessfully have had money or projects with that platform.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. You have to see both sides. Now let me ask you guys this. I almost lost my train of thought there. It was a good question. Let me come back to it. It was a good question. I can't remember how it was. But one thing I know also is, how are people getting, paid through this process? Is this a monthly thing? Is it an annual thing? How do they keep track of what they're making?
A common structure is to be, if there's any sort of cash flow from the investment, which with Holdfolio, that's the primary stimulus behind the investment is cash flow coming in every month from rent. So common structure is to be paid out quarterly. So quarterly cash dividends being paid out to those investors.
Okay, and that's usually provided in a dashboard or some type of, is it mailed to them? How is that presented to them?
Via ACH is the best route, electronic payment.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. Let's see here. You did send me some questions I wanted to cover for sure. Is, most of the people at REIClub, we would like to say, are newbie investors. They're coming in, maybe have done one deal, they maybe own a couple of rental properties, but overall, this concept is going to be generally new to them. So, say I own 3 or 4 properties. I don't hate landlording. How should I approach crowdfunding as an income-producing opportunity? Am I going to be making a whole bunch of money in this in a short period of time, or is really play the long game, 5 years, 10 years, like you said before? For me, I don't have any money in crowdfunding right now, but hopefully after this call, I have a little bit more insight to, maybe set aside 10 or 20 grand just to see, what kind of returns I can get from this. So
go ahead.
Yeah, we have experienced investors who invest with us. And the reason they do that is because of that passive element and a diversification opportunity. So if you're currently engaged in real estate, you currently have a few properties, rental properties, then what we find is a good option, a good fund source to invest money with would be an IRA or old 401k retirement funds, where maybe you're moving or have those funds in a self-directed IRA. Those funds are a little bit harder to use on a day-to-day basis yourself. So by placing them with a crowdfunding investment, it's one more removed. You're removing yourself a little bit more from the investment as far as daily management. And so we find that a lot of people turn to us and turn to crowdfunding for, retirement funds, getting those in play.
And thank you so much for bringing that up. I was actually going to want to follow up to that question is, so it's not necessarily just directly out of my savings. If they already do have a 401k or an IRA set up, they could transfer it into a self-directed and invest in crowdfunding or put it in crowdfunding. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yes. It's a very common, maybe around 30% of all the funds that we see are retirement related.
And is this something that you're able to assist people with in case they don't have this already currently set up?
Yeah, we have guidelines. Oh, sorry, Sterling. We have guidelines, and we've worked with dozens of custodians out there. So it's something that if you already have a self-directed IRA set up, then great. If you don't, our colleagues have the knowledge and experience that can kind of give you a good overview and point you in the right direction.
Okay, great. And this is that an extra cost, or is this just a service of of the site?
As far as pointing in the right direction and giving the general insights, that's something we're happy to do. And the only cost that would be involved would be regarding to each individual custodian out there. They all have their individual cost structures.
Now, as an investor, we always tell people to protect themselves, asset protection, an entity. A lot of the times people are investing with their LLC, as we say, the smaller fish. Is this something that needed to set up ahead of time? Are they investing out of their LLCs? Are they investing personally as a sole proprietor? How does that work on the entity side of things? So I would say, yeah.
The investment with us is in an LLC. Okay. And so there's a good separation of liability for those who invest are simply there to provide money and earn returns. And our company as the manager takes on all of the liability that is involved because we're the decision makers. We're the ones doing the day-to-day. So really from an investor standpoint, we have a vast majority of individuals just simply take ownership in their personal name. And that's completely all right.
So you guys are kind of like the third-party intermediate that protects us from getting in trouble. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's both legal and then the structure of the LLC. So okay. Exactly. The biggest risk is your capital that you're contributing. So, of course, losing that capital is your biggest risk. Outside of that, there's no liability that could come from the investment.
So I actually remember the question before. I'm glad I remembered it because for me, this is the first thing that I ran into when this first started becoming a thing, crowdfunding. So you have these sites out there that are posting their numbers, right? They have like, oh, it's 23% returns or 17% returns, and it's all of these awesome numbers on their front end. As a potential investor, I'm automatically assuming like these are either fabricated or these are just the best of the best. Should I take that with a grain of salt, number one? And then number two is there actual information that I can ask for, like paper documentation of these deals that they've actually, or their portfolios that are a lot more detailed than this 4 numbers that are all green and looking awesome?
Show me your P&L.
P&L. What is a P&L, Sterling?
Profit loss. So of your previous deal. So let's say you had a fund or a portfolio, or let's say a property that you have these high projections on. could you show me a similar property in the past to where, let's say, they had projections of earned returns of 23% of your money? Can you show me a previous product that has performed this and show me the track record of what the actual performance, trailing, the trailing 12? Actually, that term's more in apartments. And, but yeah, show me the numbers of the past track record of another.
And let me ask you this. I would assume in most situations, you know, they would need to consider you as a player first before doing all this work for you and looking these things up, or at least giving you this info. Is that the case with these crowdfunding sites? You know, are they that open to just give you these P&Ls, or do you have to provide some type of info before they do that for you?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, and something I do not have the knowledge on how the other platforms work in that space. When it comes to us, when someone does ask us to provide a previous track record of our portfolios and our products, we're more than happy to disclose that. So it really depends on which.
Yeah, and adding to this, as an investor looking to invest in crowdfunding opportunities, any opportunities out there, it's your number one job to do your due diligence. So any platform that's shying away from providing you documents, providing you referrals, getting you that next level of nitty-gritty details that you should and absolutely have, turn the corner. Don't bother your time. You should be working with people who will go through the links to get you the disclosures, get you the transparency that it takes in order to see, you know, in order to truly vet and do your due diligence as an investor. So like Sterling was saying, we love and encourage people to anything you could imagine. Number one, we try to provide up front, and then over and beyond that, we love fielding questions outside of that, and we love providing anything that we can in order to, you know, help gain that confidence and provide that transparency.
No, that's good. And so final thing on this point is, are what we're seeing on these sites, are they considered projections, or are they actual factual numbers?
They're
go ahead.
Projections.
Projections.
Yeah. Projections.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
Okay. That's how they always get you. I was always very concerned about that, because I was like, man, these are really, really good. These are very, and it's the same thing with mutual funds. They're always showing you over a 12-year span where the expected returns, and very rarely does it reach that point. So it's good to know that you guys have to ask for the P&Ls, make sure you get the documentation. You know, every site is different, and as Sterling and, you know, Jacob just said, is make sure, you know, if there's any type of roadblocks they're giving you, that should be more of a red flag more than them trying to posture against you. So again, being forthright, portfolio, all these things, these are all factual numbers. There should be no reason why they should be hiding it from you. Now let's talk about some other like personal questions about you guys. You know, when you guys are doing, you know, portfolio prior to investing, you know, what were some common mistakes that you guys kind of like ran into, even maybe in the crowdfunding space, when you guys are first dealing with investors, that you can maybe help our members err to the side of caution? You know, like what should they be paying attention to when they first start out here?
In the crowdfunding space, or
yeah,
just overall?
Let's do two-prong approach. Let's do like your personal investing, and then of course into crowdfunding. Let's do two questions on this one.
Yeah, so I'd start with crowdfunding. So I'd say the biggest thing that we didn't foresee going in is how much time it would take to get the legal side of things. So that was definitely overwhelming. And as Jacob stated earlier, it was about an 18-month process to where we had all of our I's and T's dotted and crossed. And from the standpoint of being a personal investor is, I mean, there's been so many mistakes, but of course you learn from your failures, and, you know, you move on and to bigger and better things. But I'd say, you know, really never.
One thing I can add to the personal side of investing is, if you want to flip a house, and this is one you know, personal mistake that I made, I would leverage other people as much as you can. So if you want to flip a house, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to flipping a house, from acquiring the property to the renovation to listing it, you know, what your sales price is, figuring out your after repair value before you even buy the home. There's a lot of moving parts. So instead of necessarily, you know, getting nice big chest and just buying it and moving forward. Try to find someone who's flipped houses in your market and see what you can bring to the table. Whether it's, hey, if I go scout a flip deal, can I shadow you through the process or something? Or maybe you have some money. Can I provide X amount of money in this flip deal and just shadow you through the process? And so if you want to flip a home, that's one of my biggest advice is get next to someone who's flipped homes, learn the ropes before you go all in. If it's one project, you're going to be so much further ahead. You don't have to do it for years. It's just you mitigate so much risk by doing that. So same with rental properties. Get shoulder to shoulder with someone who has rental properties, and maybe try to create some type of partnership where you can purchase a rental property with someone who is experienced. Maybe you're providing capital. Maybe you're finding the deal. There's a lot of different ways to create partnerships. So mitigating risk through partnerships on the front end will get you so much further ahead of the game, and you can take off and run from there.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to follow up on that real quick. Is like most people probably know this about me, but when I first started out, I had been interned with this guy, and all I did was put up signs. I put up signs all over the city, and I had field the calls, and then I would help show the listings and things like that. I would follow and shadow them around, and I didn't get paid to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting you guys go out there and do free labor or anything like that, but I found it as an opportunity because, like Jacob said, this guy had experience. He was a well-known name in our industry, and I was like, whatever I can learn from him is better than me, sending someone emails like, hey, I'm looking for coaching. Can someone help me? We get that all the time, and I think it's great to ask for help. But the most important thing, guys, is actually going out there and just doing it yourself. You can ask and ask and hope someone will handhold you through the process. But I promise you, Jacob and Sterling, you guys are where you are today, not because you waited for someone to help you. It's like, well, I'm just going to take this into my own hands, right?
Yeah, and it's you brought value to that individual by putting out those signs and taking those calls. I did the same thing. I did free labor with a property management company that was owning rental properties. I just said, you don't have to pay me. I just want to, if it's busy work, that's fine. And that was what led me on to getting more involved and taking those next steps.
It's what we call sweat equity, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweat equity.
Same here. I did the same route. Route. Yeah. Working for my mentor for free as well. Learning all the ropes of property management, as well as doing the development on large historical apartment buildings. So,
nice.
Huge, a lot of knowledge from that individual. But yeah, awful.
And you guys always ask us, like, oh, how do I get access to the MLS? Or, how do I get insight to what's going on? Or how do I get pocket listings and all these other things? Guess what? It's building relationships and doing these exact things, whether it's with a mentor or with a real estate agent. Trust me, good agents out there are looking for people to help them put up signs, answer calls, open doors if they're able to, if they're able to get their license too. But that's really great advice that you guys just gave, is to find someone to leverage their experience to catapult you ahead. I would definitely strongly suggest you guys try to do that if you have not yet. So one thing I also like to do, and we did this on a previous episode, is we like to find out, how the successful mind works. What is it that you guys want? I'd like to know what one daily routine that you guys do every day to kind of just get your mind right for the day. And of course, too, the second question is maybe a book or two you could suggest to our members that you've read that really kind of influenced the way you see your business now, and maybe how it's kind of changed how you approach real estate for the better. So let's do, I know it's a long-winded question, so two questions. And then, of course, a very frequent routine that you do every day.
Yeah, so I'd say I'm all about mindset. So I've always thought big, huge is one thing I would push up on your listeners. Don't think small, always think big. And one thing that I always do as far as my daily habits is when I wake up, I write my goals down. Through the course of the day, I have my goals in my wallet that I'm consistently looking at. And then when I go to sleep, I have my same book that I write my goals down in as well. So it's a constant reminder. And as far as a book that I would recommend, man, there's so many books. I'd say The Maverick Mindset by Doug Hall is one of the actual first books that I read.
I'm going to put this down. Maverick. I'm going to write this down. You remember hear some typing over here. Mindset. I like to keep track of these things since these are books I add to my book reading list. And you said, who's the one who authored this?
Doug Hall.
Doug Hall. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
It's really good. It breaks down various stories of people that basically just weathered the storm. And it's a phenomenal book. So
I'm like you, Sterling. I'm a mindset guy. I know people are more of a process. They like to know like what other people have done. I like to, like Tony Robbins. He always pumps himself and jacks himself up every day just so he can carry that momentum throughout the whole, through everything he does. And I think that's a lot of the thing is it's mental. It's 50% effort, 50% mental.
Oh, yeah.
You can be the strongest person, but if you're weak here, you're not going to get there, and vice versa. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I love my mental game books. What about you? What about you, Jacob? What would you recommend? I feel like you guys are two different personalities. He may take a different approach.
Well, when it comes to habits, Sterling and I both actually have a similar structure. What I like to do to start the day out is I have a defined why. So I have a statement. It's two sentences, and it describes why I'm living in the world today, what I'm working towards, and why. And so defining that why, and it takes a while. You continue building on it. You continue editing it. It's never something you just write once. The more you read it, you start adding things, you take away things. But the thing is, you start the day off reading your why. And then like Sterling mentioned, you have your top goals, and you write them in the present tense. For example, I will own 300 rental properties by the end of 2017. And so you might have a short-term goal, a medium-term goal, and a long-term goal. And so you're starting your day out, you're getting your little pocketbook. That's where I write these things in a little pocketbook that I carry in my back pocket. You review your why, your mission statement. You review your maybe 2 or 3 goals. You can write them. Always, pen to paper always helps. I know Sterling does pen to paper. And from there, you kind of set the day. You set a tone. You get your mind on the right thing. You might take a second to. Some people will shortly meditate. Maybe do some short meditation. It's not a daily thing for me on the meditation, but when you can work it in, that's great. And also visualizing. Just taking a second. What I've done is kind of written down some visualizations of that home that you and your family will be living in 5 years, or that car that you drive to work every single day. And you just take a second to close your eyes and envision it. And so maybe it's a 3 to 5 minute process in the morning, but if you do these things every day, it's gonna reshape the way you look at the world, and really move you forward.
So I've got 6 words that's kind of really stuck with me from Earl Nightingale, who I was listening to this morning. Is he always says, well, his main quote is, "We become what we think about," and that's always just
write that
huge.
down, buddy. We become what we think about.
And the universe will conspire to your everyday thoughts. So
I think go ahead.
Oh, I think Jake, did you have a book that you?
Yeah, I've read so many books in the most recent handful of years, but one that really I read in the very beginning and kind of got my mindset thinking a little differently was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And so that was an early day book that really started the transition for me. And there's tons of great books, 4 Hour Work Week, and you've heard that one, I'm sure, plenty of times. So there's a great dozen to be read. And also, don't just read these books and toss them on the shelf. Pick them back up. Thumb through them, read them twice, read them 3 times. Every time you'll pull out another nugget, you'll pull out something that is going to move you forward.
And it's fascinating, you know, like one of the unique positions of being able to interview you guys is to ask these questions. And it means something when the majority of the successful people that you talk about, they do what we call affirmations, right? You wake up every day, and I was watching this documentary on Tony Robbins. I just love following him. He's like, every day just 15 minutes of meditation, but it's to visualize and to conceptualize what it is, your purpose, his purpose. That's what he does. He has a purpose, just like you have a mission every day. So I encourage you guys who are listening today to, if you don't do that, you know, if you wake up every morning and you have a negative attitude, it's a mindset game. Take a deep breath. Find 15 minutes of the day, even if you have kids screaming around, yelling around, you know, just take 15 minutes, you know, have the spouse, watch the kids, and really take some time to yourself and actualize what means something to you today. Because, you know, if we're not moving forward, guys, you're moving backwards. And I know in real estate, everybody who's listening to this call wants to do something better with their life. You know, they're wanting to make something. It's not all about money. It's a lifestyle change, right? You have all the money in the world, but if you're busy and not enjoying that money, you're miserable. You're just as miserable as someone who has $0 in the bank. So it's about work and life balance. And I think it's really great to hear that you guys, you know, have these missions that you have in the morning. I do as mine as well, you know, like I do through my everyday routines. Otherwise, there's just so much that goes on in our day that clouds our purpose, that you have to have these affirmations to consistently remind you to reach that goal. So that's just my 2 cents. And I think it's really great talking to you guys about this stuff because, you know, one thing our members always try to figure out is, one, you know, new real estate opportunities, which I think crowdfunding is a phenomenal platform for that, guys. Passive income is great, you know, especially if you already are investing in land or homes or commercial deals. This is just another avenue to diversify your portfolio.
Oh, yeah.
So with that being said, let me ask you guys this. You know, how does one get started, whether it's with Holdfolio or Crowd? What do they need to do to take that first step into crowdfunding?
Yeah, so you can do either let's say a Google search, but one thing I would do is kind of take a step back and kind of figure out what is your ultimate goal as an investor. Are you looking for more of a short-term type of debt, or are you looking for something more long-term equity type to where it's more hands-off for you? Either way, it'll be more hands-off if you're going through crowdfunding, but that's one thing I would look into, and that'll determine which platform you go with, and because different platforms play in different markets and have different deal structures. So that's one thing, just to figure out what your ultimate goal is.
Yeah, and adding on to that, all of these crowdfunding platforms, they're online, they're websites. So register, get yourself some access to some of these deals that are available, and get access to the documents. Start reading through them. Start digesting, seeing the different. You'll start seeing different terms that you've never heard of. You know, Google search the term, understand it. Really, you should be reading through a handful at least of different investment opportunities, documents, before you decide that one is right, because there's different provisions, there's different ways to say things. You know, if you can get on the phone with a rep from a current crowdfunding site that can explain the opportunity in their words to you, and then, you know, also review the documents, come with your questions, get your answers, and, you know, it's about getting started on that side to familiarize yourself.
So with that being said, I'm actually at holdfolio.com right now. You guys have a beautiful website. You know, for those who are on the call today who want to learn more about Holdfolio or just get some more information about crowdfunding through your platform, you know, how can people do that, you know, other than the website itself? You know, is there an email that we can give out? People can ask you guys questions, maybe more specific to their current financial situation. Maybe they have a lot more money they want to invest and ask for y'all's advice on how to distribute that.
Yeah, so they can email info@holdfolio.com, and simply both Jacob and I check into that. So we will be the first ones to respond. We're pretty responsive with those things as well. So
Awesome, awesome. So what we're gonna do, guys, is like we're actually recording this call. We're gonna actually put this up on YouTube. Hopefully, if you guys are active on YouTube, we invite you onto our channel and like comment on there. We have people who love asking questions. They're like, "Oh, we love your videos. You know, do another one," or "Hey, like I have a specific question about your website. You know, reach out to me." And as long as we keep a community there, we love the fact that you guys are doing this for our members. I know they're greatly appreciative of this as well. We're going to be putting this on iTunes, so please, give us a favorable rating on there. Let us know you like it. It's what helped us keep on doing these videos over and over again. But with that being said, I always like to end our calls with one of those, last minute, what would you advise, when people are starting out, what they would do differently? I know we've covered a lot of those points already, but, the last minute thought for our members here today who are like, oh man, crowdfunding's cool, or oh man, I'm super jacked up. What should I do now? So I'd leave that to you guys. Your last words of I would call them encouragement, and then we're going to conclude the call that way.
All right, go ahead, Jake. You got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, just get out there. If you're interested in crowdfunding, Google crowdfunding, read some articles, visit some sites. There are reviews out there, so read yourself some reviews. And what I'd say is there's a lot of front-end fluff on everything. If you can get down into some documents and get some nitty-gritty details, then jump in and start familiarizing yourself with the terms of the industry.
Yeah, and this is going to be a general type of, finishing touch, but anyone who's out there that's a dreamer looking to achieve that goal, just go out there and take action, because at the end of the day, we only have so much time on this earth. So just go out there and just do it.
It's beautiful, man. You guys are young and a testament to what you're saying. So thank you guys again for taking the time to join us today. We're so grateful for this information. And those who have joined us and are listening at REI Club, we are so grateful for your time as well. Again, this is Frank Chen with REIClub.com with Sterling and Jacob from Holdfolio.com, wishing you guys good investing. And we're going to talk to you guys next time. Now go out there and do some deals. Take care, guys. All right. Bye-bye.
Right.
Thank you, Frank.
Today I got a quick video for you covering the 5 important landlording tips that are going to save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every year.
Make it a must, make it happen, as Jake likes to say. And that's what I'm trying to do. If I don't like it down here, I can always pick back up and go back up to New York. But at least I want to give it a try now. Quality of life, the weather's better, it's just awesome.